This is Glenn Hughes, the voice of rock, and you're listening to Music Mania.
You ready for some screaming heavy metal? We rock!
But the evil that men do lives on.
We gonna bang your head!
You are now listening to the Music Mania podcast, brought to you by CD Warehouse in Gladstone, the #1 hard rock podcast in the Midwest, featuring hard-hitting interviews with rock's living legends. And now, here's your host, Clint Switzer.
Well, we are officially on the road to rock here in the summer of 2019, often running into the spring and summer months, which is what it's all about for us here on the Music Mania podcast. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm going to be joined by 3 huge guests on this very show, including Mark Kendall from the band Great White. Great White's going to be here on Friday night at the Ameristar Casino. Tickets are still available. Go to the band's website, officialgreatwhite.com. You can get tickets. It's going to be great to welcome Mark back to the show. It's been a couple years since we talked to him. We had Michael Lardy on the show just a few months ago, and we're going to talk to Mark about the addition of Mitch Malloy as singer. He's been in the band about a year now. Going to talk to him about that, the transition, what it's been like from Terry Illouz now to Mitch Malloy, who I think is bringing a lot to the band. Great, just a great front man and a tremendous singer. So can't wait to see Great White. I'm also going to be welcoming none other. This was a huge surprise. Now, I'm not someone that really likes a lot of surprises. Like, I'm not one that enjoys like Christmas gift surprises. I like to know what I'm getting myself into. I'm a planner. You know, that's kind of how I do things. But on this show, the ultimate surprise is going to be unfolding because I'm being joined by Jim Peterik. And his new album is called Winds of Change. It came out April 26th via Frontier Music. And the new single, Proof of Heaven, features Dennis DeYoung. Of course, Jim Peterik was a member of Survivor. He wrote Eye of the Tiger. He's just a legend in the music business. He's written songs like Hold On Loosely by 38 Special. He has just done it all. And guess what? Called in to do this interview with Jim as he's promoting this new album. And Dennis DeYoung just happens to be in the room with him. Yes, Dennis DeYoung of Styx. He's actually going to be bringing his music of Styx to Jefferson City here coming up in June. But to my surprise, both gentlemen were there and just happened to be there. And you hear, I mean, they catch me off guard. You hear me, you know, I'm thinking that Jim's pulling a fast one on me or something. And it's kind of funny the way I react to it because I'm like, wait, what? Is Dennis DeYoung really in the room? Because I was not expecting it. It was not on my original, you know, in my notes or from the publicist. So very amazing occurrence. And that's coming up here in our second interview on the Music Mania podcast. Definitely want to send you over to check out Jim Peterik's In World Stage album. It is awesome. JimPeterik.com. You can get all the information for that. Of course, Dennis DeYoung is a guest on the album. Not only that, but you got Matthew and Gunnar Nelson, Kelly Kagi from Night Ranger. You've got Toby Hitchcock, Danny Vaughn, Mike Reno from Loverboy, Kevin Cronin from REO Speedwagon. It is a star-studded album. Jim Peterik is an amazing songwriter and performer, and we're going to get into all that. Man, I tell you, Jim Peterik has done it all, and it's going to be great to talk with him. And, of course, Dennis DeYoung happens to pop in there as well. It's just something I can't stop saying because it was such a surprise and so amazing. But that's our interviews are locked in for this. It's going to be great. We have several big ones coming up, including Cher Ross from Vixen's going to be coming up. We have Johnny Rabb from Collective Soul on the horizon here, and Don Felder, former guitarist from the Eagles. Those are all taping this week. It's going to be a huge summer here on the Music Mania podcast, and a lot of that is going to be based on the concerts we attend and the interviews we get. Now, I just got back from not seeing Sammy Hagar live. Yes, I made the 4-hour drive from Kansas City to St. Louis this past weekend. It was supposed to be a Saturday night show. I get there, and people are filing into the parking lot. The gates are about to open when the venue decides to postpone the show. Now, here's the kicker. Barely an ounce of rain wound up falling. People were very angry. There were people that flew in, that had flights, that had hotels, that couldn't stay for the Sunday show. Like me, I couldn't stay for the Sunday show. I had other obligations, and getting a refund, let me tell you, that wasn't easy. Trying to navigate the Ticketmaster site, it said, oh, just simply press the button for a refund on your account. Of course, there was hiccups there. It wouldn't take, when you hit the button, it wasn't giving you the refund. You had to call, and the line was busy. It was just a nightmare. And I think it was an extremely knee-jerk reaction by the venue to cancel the show, especially as gates were opening, as people were filing in. Sammy was just getting done with sound check at about 5:30, and they canceled the show about 6. Unbelievable. And you had a beautiful evening. It was 85 degrees. A few raindrops fell, but the ticket says all-weather event. This was bungled by Hollywood Casino Amphitheater. If you want to read more details, I wrote an article about it. It's on our website, musicmaniapodcast.com. Check that out. Let me know if I'm being unfair, because I think when people make arrangements like that and you got a big show like that, Sammy Hagar at the Hollywood Casino Amphitheater in St. Louis. Sammy Hagar is huge in St. Louis. He does Van Halen-like numbers there. Sammy Hagar in the Circle, when Vince Neil was set to open. Of course, the show took place Sunday night. I'm sure it was great. Sure it was fantastic. But I'm always going to have that bad taste in my mouth. I didn't get to see it. So I had to turn around and come home. And a lot of people were, put out even more so than I was. So that's my story, sticking to it. But there's a lot more coming up. Going to be covering the Rocklahoma Festival from Pryor, Oklahoma. Guys, I attended this show in its inception in 2007. As a fan, I was there, braving 3 days, camping out in the July heat. Now the event is in May, thankfully. Although sometimes you get those bad storms and tornadoes and things like that. Hopefully we steer clear of that. But can't wait to be down there. You got bands like Disturbed, Korn, Jackal, Ace Frehley, Bush. It's going to be a great weekend. I'm always fortunate to go down there and cover that from the media tent. The nice cushy media tent where there's drinks provided and shade. Not having to be out there with all the crazy fans, going nuts. Hey, I know that's part of it. I go out there here and there and just to check it out, but when it comes down to it, if there's like a band that I'm not crazy about seeing, I like to have that solace and just that quiet space. So, that's me in my old age. I know most of you can't relate, but that's going to be coming up, and so many shows. We are on the road to rock all summer long here on the podcast. Going to be catching Vixen coming up, so we're going to have Cher Ross coming on. They're going to be in Edgerton, Kansas on June 14th, and we got Firehouse coming in June 29th. So much coming up. I'm going to be taking a road trip to see Bryan Adams and Billy Idol in August in Detroit. I tell you what, that's what it's all about. Follow all our adventures. Catch us on Instagram, Music Mania Podcast. Of course, on Twitter at MusicMania_show. And I hope you're subscribed to the podcast, which you can do on Google Play Music, Apple Podcasts, and certainly Spotify. If you have a smartphone, you have this show. We always appreciate the feedback. So please hit that subscribe button and leave us some feedback. If there's a guest you'd like to have on, if you want a band that you'd like us to review, get a hold of me, musicmaniapodcast@gmail.com, and that will go straight to me. So always appreciate that. Always appreciate interacting with you guys and the feedback. So much coming up. And I tell you what, before we get to our first interview, which is with Mark Kendall of Great White, got to tell you about our sponsor, CD Warehouse in Gladstone, Missouri. Guys, for over 22 years, a staple of the Northland. They buy, sell, and trade CDs, DVDs, vinyl, and more. Do not let the vibe of the old school record store go by the wayside. Give them a visit off Antioch Road today and tell them Music Mania sent you, and there will be a discount, or it's on us. Guys, CD Warehouse in Gladstone, Missouri, for over 22 years, a staple of the Northland. Louder Than Life, America's premier 3-day rock festival, comes to Louisville's Hiley Festival grounds at the KY Expo Center, September 27th through 29th, starring Guns N' Roses, Slipknot, Disturbed, Rob Zombie, Godsmack, Marilyn Manson, Breaking Benjamin, Chevelle, Hailstorm, and many more. Single day and weekend passes are available now at louderthanlifefestival.com. Experience it live. Oh, it's good to hear from you again, man. It's been a while. We got you coming into Kansas City though this Friday night. How cool is that, man?
Yeah, it's exciting.
You guys are going to be here at the Ameristar Casino, fabulous venue, lots of big acts coming through there. We're going to see you Friday night. You guys are kind of booked. You got quite a few dates coming up this summer. The band is as busy as ever. How's everything been going? I know it's an exciting time for you guys for sure.
Yeah, we've been playing around, and it's kind of interesting that something came up recently, kind of off the subject of the music, but in 1930. My grandfather and grandmother are from Missouri.
Wow.
A place called St. Joseph.
Yep.
Now, in 1930, my my grandfather worked at a bank with a famous painter, or who became a famous painter, named Billy DeBoers, who he was just an up-and-comer then, and he did a mural of my grandma way back in 1930. He became a famous painter.
Wow.
And when my uncle died, they gave me the original painting, and I didn't even know it was from a famous painter at the time. And a collector went on my Facebook and said, "Hey, I collect Billy DeBoers paintings," and that's a Billy DeBoers. And I looked at it. I had to research it through all my relatives and found out all the information. He did it as a favor to my grandfather. At the time, he was Billy DeBoers, the painter, was a bank teller.
Wow.
And my grandfather worked at that bank too, and he did that as a favor. He showed him a couple paintings, and he goes, "Would you like me to do a painting of your wife?" Anyways, he ended up doing Rita Hayworth and all the huge stars from way back in the 30s.
Jeez.
And, yeah, so it's pretty amazing. You know, that was in St. Joseph, which isn't too awful far from Kansas City, but yeah, so it's kind of neat. And I also have a little bit of history going to Kansas City. A few years back, a friend of mine who's a professional pool player played Danny Harriman, who's the state champion in Kansas City, and they just played kind of a challenge match, and I was there for 3 days watching that.
Wow.
And, you know, we've been playing Kansas City, you know, our whole career, so this is nothing new, but it's still exciting to get there.
That is really cool, and yeah, we're only about 40 miles south of St. Joe here, and I've seen great white, I'll tell you what, Mark, in every incarnation imaginable. I think my first time, you guys opened for Poison on the 99 reunion tour. It was 99, you and, yes, right. LA Guns and you guys and Rat and Poison. So that was my first time, and hey, a million times since then, and it's always great. Excited to see you guys. We've got to talk about your singer, Mitch Malloy, because it's been a year now since he's been in the band. Yeah. I've always been such a fan of his. I love his style. I love him as a front man. Talk about what he's brought to the band, and it's kind of, you know, we had Michael Lardy on the show a couple of months ago. Yeah. It's just a renewed enthusiasm within the Great White Camp. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Actually, it happened quite by accident. I just, when we recorded the album with Michael Wagner in Nashville, we had this part in the song that we wanted, you know, the infamous gang shout that Michael Wagner is kind of famous for. And he called down about 20 guys from 20 different bands. Mitch Malloy was there. I'm not sure if I said even 2 words to him there, but then on the Monsters of Rock cruise, he came up on the stage with us, and I remembered him from Michael Wagner. Anyway, so make a long story short, one morning I was on my phone and I saw this Van Halen story about Mitch Malloy being in Van Halen. And, you know, I grew up with Van Halen playing 3 blocks from my house when I was like 16 years old. I paid $1 to go see him. So I've known him that long and known pretty much everything about Van Halen except for Mitch Malloy being in the band. So I watched this little documentary about it, and I remembered him from, you know, the cruise and Michael Wagner in the studio in Nashville. And so I was just curious, and I heard him do Panama, and now come to find out he has this huge solo career, so I listened to a few of those songs, and he had this big, wide range, his vocal, and I really, Michael Lardy had sent me a picture, and it was, you could just see me and Mitch Malloy on stage, and I thought it looked really cool, but nothing's being talked about Mitch being in the band at this point. But after I saw the Van Halen thing, I called Michael Lardy and asked if, I go, man, do you know anything about this Mitch Malloy guy? And he said he'd been looking into him for a while, but he never told me about it. So, in other words, so this wasn't a case where we were auditioning singers or had ads out or anything like that. this kind of came up organically, and anyway, so we talked about it, and they said, what do you think about maybe sending in some music without vocals, like some of our old hits and stuff, and maybe a couple new songs, and see what his voice sounds like on it, and see if he's interested in joining or jamming with us. And he was, so he has a studio, he put his vocals on, sent us the tape back, and it sounded amazing. Next thing you know, he's on a plane coming out to jam with us for 3 days, and that was that. And he's done tons of shows for a year now, and every night he just absolutely kills it on stage. He looks great. He really engages the crowd, and he sings great. And girls are starting to look at us again.
Well, not that they weren't already.
Believe it or not.
Not that they weren't already, Mark. Come on, don't sell yourself short, man. Well, this is just such a blessing, and it's great to have this. And how important is it when it comes to paying proper, giving proper credence to these songs? Because people come to see Great White. I mean, they know the songs. The hits are so big. I mean, from Once Bitten, Twice Shy to Rock Me and Save Your Love, all the songs that people come to see, and it's important that those be presented in a proper way. And I know for you guys, it's hard. It's been hard. I mean, you had Terry Illou's in there for a while, and now with Mitch. How important is that, though, that you have someone out there that really does these songs justice?
Very, very important. And that's why we felt this was a good move, because we feel like Mitch is a little bit better fit, not only image-wise, but vocally. He sings the songs, he delivers the songs in a way that's just more like the original, And, we don't want to reinvent the songs, When we write new stuff, that's a different story, but you want to deliver the hits well, and so people come down to hear that, and so Mitch does it a lot of justice, and plus he puts on a real high energy show. He really gets into it, and he's a natural frontman. I mean, he doesn't force anything. He talks to the crowd like he talks to talking to anybody, but he gets them right into the show from the very beginning of the show, and It's just always a great night. Mitch is he covers the stage, he gets into it, he loves what he does, and we're thrilled to have him in the band.
Well, Mark, the last time we had you on, it was in 2017, and we were talking about a new Great White album. It was, of course, Full Circle, which I thought was really good. Now that you've got Mitch in the fold, what are there plans for maybe some new music coming up?
Yes, we've been writing songs. In fact, I actually sent him some music with just the music. I had a pretty good arrangement on the song, and he sent the song back done, vocals, lyrics, everything, with a big, beautiful hook. And I was like in shock, because I've never written with a singer where I just handed him music and he sent me a song back. He lives in Nashville, so I couldn't just call him and go, hey, come over, I got this great idea. So we did it that way. Now, when we get down to crunch time, we will definitely be getting in a room with the band and working things out that way, but just temporarily we're just kind of, doing it with our phones and whatnot. But we were in shock. I played it for the band, and we're just like, holy God, man, where's this guy from? But, I didn't know a lot about Mitch. And that's not to say he's not great. I just, when you're touring and touring and touring and you're making records, it's hard to follow everybody's career and, and all that. But he's got a bunch of solo albums. He's been around, and he's got a lot of fans. I mean, he's been on, like, Jay Leno and stuff like this, but I somehow he escaped my radar. But, people love him. He's been going to Europe for years. People know who he is, so it's not like we just grabbed this random dude off the street. I mean, this guy has fans, and, it's a joy, and he delivers our songs really well, and he really likes our music a lot.
That's important.
That means a lot, too. He really digs the music. I mean, he's passed on Chicago. I think he was second in line with Journey. Kind of got beat out by the Filipino guy. And I understand why. I mean, that guy sounded so much like Harry.
Yeah.
You know, if you close your eyes, you can almost, I mean, it's close. I mean, you know, and that's what they wanted. So, of course, you know, that worked out great for them. But, yeah, like I said, we're just thrilled with Mitch, and he's a great guy, you know. He's a great guy to be in a band with. He's got great energy. You know, he's a very positive guy.
Well, how important is that for a band? I feel like, you know, because you, Audie, and Michael, you guys have been around and doing this for 34 years as great as this thing called Great White.
Right.
So at this point in your careers, how important is it to be around people and players and that gel well with you, that you get along with? I mean, that's something that, like, in your 20s, I feel like you can deal with all these combustible elements, but then when you're at the age you are now, it's more important to be around people that you get along with. I mean, would you agree?
Absolutely. And you know, the other thing is we're a sober band. I mean, by no means are we, you know, these uptight freaks that, you know, I mean, we're still pretty crazy, but, you know, it's nice to not have one guy with some kind of, like, you know, drinking problem or, you know, anything that distracts us from what we do. And, you know, it's nice to have a teammate, if you will, that has good energy, a good morale, and is fun to be around, of course, you know. You don't want to be in a band with guys you hate, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So Mitch is, he's all that, you know. He's a great guy. He's fun to be around. You know, we talk about things away from music, and you know, he's a joy to be around. And yeah, sure, it's important. You know, the most important thing is the show.
Yeah.
And that he delivers the songs well, and that our fans love him, which they've accepted wholeheartedly. I see the smiling faces. I see, you know, the way the crowd looks at Mitch, and everybody's smiling. So, you know, the acceptance was there really quickly. And people come up, I mean, here I've been in the band for 30-some years, and they come up and they're like, "Where's that Mitch guy?" You know, I want to take a picture with that one.
That's because of it. That's because of it. That's good.
It's crazy, you know. They always run out to the lead singer.
That's because he has the best hair in music. I mean, let's be honest. It's the hair for Mitch, right? I mean, he's got amazing hair. And I tell you, okay, so I remember this Van Halen story, and I always remember going back to it. Was he in the band momentarily after Dave had left, or was this back in the Pasadena days?
No, it was after Sammy Hagar left. It was like the mid-'90s, I guess.
So before Gary Sharon.
And I never heard about it, but what happened was he was in the band for a couple months. They were writing. You know, they totally accepted him in the band. They had a band meeting. He was told he was in the band. And then he kind of went home because they had to go do this award presentation on MTV or something. So he was just going home to, like, get his things and, you know, prepare for the future with Van Halen and everything. And then so he watched the MTV thing, and the three guys walk out, but then David Lee Roth walked out.
Yep.
And that freaked Mitch out. He's going, "This is going to confuse everybody. You know, I don't want to be a part of this, you know," and so he kind of bailed on the project, but it was a friendly parting, according to Mitch, and Eddie even gave him a song and goes, "Here, take this song and do whatever you want with it." And Mitch actually, I guess, you know, a lot of years rolled by, but he grabbed the song one day and actually made it into something. But, you know, he just didn't want to be part of it, of the confusion of why isn't it David Lee Roth? He was on MTV. Who are you? And that kind of vibe.
Well,
so he just didn't want to deal with all that.
Well, and it's been confusing ever since. So I don't think.
Yeah, he might as well stay in the band.
Well, I'll tell you what. You know, for Mitch being in there a year, but you and Audie, you and Michael, the three of you guys. Talk about the working relationship between you three, because it's been 34 years of this of Great White, and it's just so important. Yeah. And just talk about the working relationships, what that's like working with those guys, and how you're still able to make it work all these years later.
Well, we've always got along well, and that's big. Michael and I have always written, most of the music for the band, so none of that's changed. We're still old school. We still get in the room and jam. We show each other our ideas. It might not be a whole song. Maybe it's just a couple of parts, and we develop it as the band by just jamming together. So nothing's changed in that regard. I mean, it's basically like it's always been. I go in, I play my guitar until they tell me to stop playing. But it's we haven't changed the way we write. We don't send each other our parts in the mail when we're writing for real. Like we've never recorded that way. We always jam together. That seems to be the best way because when we all play together, it makes a certain sound,
Sure.
that's identifiable. I don't know what it would be like if we all played our parts separately, like some bands do. It might just sound exactly the same as far as I know, but we're afraid to change anything. We're so old school, and we like the way it works. We're old school in the sense that it's the human connection we have to each other. Like when we're playing, we look at each other a lot. It might cause us to do some musical thing that we wouldn't do if we weren't there. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So that happens a lot when you're in a band for a long time. But it's all good, and like you said, we get along really well, and we write like we always have. So not a lot has changed.
Awesome. Well, I tell you what, the website is officialgreatwhite.com. You can get tickets to the show here on Friday night at Ameristar Casino. So, Mark, I gotta tell you this. I gotta tell you this one, man. Here's this. Okay, I go to 100 concerts a year. I cover the shows. I'll be there in the photo, taking photos of you guys, and I'll be there. I got 2 shows in one night, brother. I got to be at Great White. You guys start at 8:30, and I got to be at Slaughter about 25 minutes away. They go on at 11. So that's my night.
Oh my God!
How about that? Not many people pull off a doubleheader in one night, right?
That's like full-on musical gangster or something.
You know what? I guess I'm still up for it. I'm 35. I'm getting up there, but I feel like I can pull this one off. One night only. Then we got to head to Rocklahoma. So it's going to be awesome.
Right on, man.
Cannot wait to see you.
Seeing you and everything, and
Mark.
Get some good pictures.
Oh, of course, brother. We'll be doing their reviewing the show, of course. You and I are Facebook friends, so I'll send them all to you afterwards. And
that'd be great.
Always appreciate it. And I'll tell you what, we'll catch you on. I know you got some summer dates coming up, but I know you're going to get home and go see your Dodgers play at least a couple more times, through the summer. And maybe you'll get them to the World Series and maybe win this one. How about that?
Yeah, we're coming runner-up 2 years in a row, man. We got to break the ice.
I think you're due, Mark. Okay, buddy, we will see you in Kansas City Friday night. Best of luck. We always appreciate it, man. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Clint, man. Appreciate it, buddy.
You bet. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, man.
Huge thanks to Mark Kendall for coming in to talk about the upcoming Great White Show here in Kansas City. Again, you can go to the website, officialgreatwhite.com, to get tickets for the Ameristar Casino show here on Friday. Guys, it's going to be a great one. I always love Great White. Mark Kendall's a great blues guitarist, blues bass guitarist, legendary. Great White goes back. We've had Jack Russell on the show. Of course, he does his own version of Great White, but this version with Mitch Malloy as singer, we got Michael Lardy in there. Tremendous. Can't wait to see them here on Friday night. Actually going to be pulling a doubleheader. This is insane. We got Slaughter and Great White in Kansas City Friday night, and I'm going to be hitting both shows. Don't ask me how, but I'm going to be pulling a Houdini act and getting from one to the other somehow and catching both sets, or at least partial sets from both bands. So that's going to be, my cross to bear here coming up this weekend. But hey, don't feel sorry for me. A lot of big stuff coming up. And I'll tell you what, we're going to go ahead and transition to our next interview. As you can tell, this was taped about a week and a half ago. I was very caught off guard because I'm joined by Jim Peterik and a very special guest, Dennis DeYoung. This is great because Jim Peterik, this is wonderful. Welcome to the show, guys. How's it going?
Hey, kid, this is Dennis DeYoung. This is supposed to be Jim Peterik's name, but he's still in the bathroom. So he said, would you please answer the phone? A man his age, what do you expect? And he's younger than me. So, wait a minute. Here he comes. Ah, Jim is here. All right, thank you, kid. I got to use the bathroom.
Jim, I expected a lot of things. I didn't expect you to pull a fast one on me here.
Well, Clint, you know us in Chicago. We're full of fun.
You guys are. I'm a Midwesterner too here in Kansas City, and I'm sitting here, and I'm always on my game, and I'm rarely thrown off. And Jim Peterik, you have done it. You have thrown me off, and I'm just going to give you props for that.
Don't leave yet, Dennis. Hey, if Clint has a question about Proof of Heaven, I want you to be here.
I'm holding his coat.
Do you have Dennis? Is Dennis DeYoung really there?
Yes.
Well, guys.
Now stop it.
We know those. Only I can hit those high notes, guys. Let's, Jim. This album. Okay, so World Stage. It was a now legendary album, but Jim Peterik and World Stage, you guys have done it again. Winds of Change. It came out in April 26th. It is a hit. Of course, via Frontiers Music. What a great label. Just talk about this album. What's the reception been like so far? Because I'm a huge fan.
Thanks. Thanks so much. Yeah, it's doing fantastic. It's kind of my wet dream, if you will, to that doesn't sound good, but anyway, to bring across to the people all these great artists from the 80s and 90s, collaborating in songwriting, singing. I released an album about 20 years ago called World Stage, and Serafino of Frontiers, Maestro, it's time for another World Stage album. What are you doing? I said, Serafino, do you know how hard it is to bring together all these rock stars and actually, get them into town and get them focused? And anyway, I started making calls, and everybody said yes. And I was really blessed because right near the end of the album, there was about a week till the deadline, and I was working with Dennis DeYoung on his solo album, helping to write a little bit, playing a little bit of guitar. And at the end of the session, Dennis goes,
Jim, I owe you a song for your album, and would you like to do Proof of Heaven? If I finish that for you while you're slaving away doing that Ides of March album, I'll finish this for you. And Jim said,
are you kidding me? I was totally blown away because that was my favorite song that we were working on. And so I was just like, yeah, So I'm really, really blessed, Clint, that Proof of Heaven is doing so well. We did the video with Dennis and I screwing around and having a blast. Have you seen the video, Clint?
Yes, we just posted it on our Facebook earlier today. I'm a huge fan.
Yay. Dennis, why don't you tell what that song means? Seriously.
It means money in the bank.
No, come on.
I want to mention one thing. Jim said this World Stage album was trying to get the great singers from the 80s and 90s. What he meant was they're in their 80s and their 90s. No, it's really, it follows the theme of some of my music, like Show Me the Way and Hello God, where all of us are, we're wondering how this whole thing works, this universe thing. And this is a guy basically just sitting there and investigating his own life and telling, I guess I'm having a conversation with the person in charge and tell him that he can whisper the secrets of the whole thing in his ear, and he promised not to tell anyone except maybe his wife. And that's really it. It's just about the only question there really is. There's only one question, my friend, and that's why. Why are we here? And that's what the song is about. And Jim and I, we collaborated on the whole thing, put it all together. That beautiful part on the end. How did they go?
On the bridge.
On the bridge.
Have you seen the sound of heaven right before our very eyes?
That's it. That's Jim. And it was just the most welcome musical part of the song to me. And we just collaborated on the whole doggone thing. And when we did the video, Jim and I said, Jim, let us not be serious. We're too old to pretend like we're real, cool rock stars. We'll just be ourselves and have fun. And then we did, and that was it. It was just trying to celebrate the music we made together and the joy of the whole thing.
You guys have definitely done that. How do you guys know each other? Obviously, Chicago guys. Styx is a Chicago band. Jim has been around. You guys have been, doing this for a long time. How far back does it go for you guys?
Oh my God! I remember seeing the TW4 Trade Winds back when I was in high school, and so was Dennis. And the Ides of March played with them in a little stage in Indiana somewhere. And I remember they were great then. I didn't meet Dennis though until a few years later when he was with Styx and they had a lady out, and I said, "This guy's got a fantastic voice." But we've bumped into each other, on the road, off the road. But we really didn't get serious about writing till very recently, and realized how much common ground we have as writers, as people. And plus, he moved like 2 blocks away from my house, so it was really easy to get together and collaborate.
Well, God bless you guys for doing so. Not only is Dennis DeYoung, of course, a part of this, but gosh, you got some of my favorite singers of all time in the genre, Matthew and Gunnar Nelson, Kelly Kagi, the drummer from Night Ranger, who's also a great singer, of course. You have an unreleased track by the late Jimmy Jameson, Jason Sheff, so much going on here. How did you guys put this together? This is insane that you were able to pull this off.
Thank you. That's the challenge of an album like this. And what's really cool, Clint, is that a lot of the times I actually flew the people in to work one-on-one. Mike Reno, for instance, what a great person, what a great singer. We actually we did a World Stage concert last year, actually January of last year, and I had him stay over longer. And we wrote Without a Bullet Being Fired, face to face. I said, I want you to harness that energy you had back in 1981 when Survivor was on tour with Loverboy, and you had the red leather pants on and the bandana, and you're singing Working for the Weekend. That's what I want. And he says, okay, Jim, got it. And we wrote the song, and I think you can feel the energy. The very next day, we cut it at my studio here, and we made it the second track on the album.
Well, I'm so I think Frontiers has done such a good job, motivating and keeping some of my, some of the most wonderful artists of our time on this label. And I go to it time and time again, and to have you guys doing this together, it's unbelievable. And, I know, Jim, that you have some live performances coming up, and I think are you doing some kind of it's Rockin' for the Kids with Sammy Hagar? He's a good friend of ours with Sammy in the Circle. What's that deal coming up?
Yeah, that's June 2nd in Ohio. You know better what city it is. It's near Cleveland, but I don't know the suburb. Do you?
That is
sure.
it. I've got it here, June 2nd, and it's Ohio. It is. I think it's outside Cleveland. I'm from the Midwest, but Ohio's. I only know about 2 or 3 small towns from there, from the girls I dated from there. So. Yeah,
well, that's what we're doing. It's for a really worthy cause, a children's hospital, and we're premiering a lot of the songs, and actually not from World Stage, ironically, but of course I'll get on. The Ides of March have a new album after being together for 55 years. It's called Play On, and we're actually putting it out on June 2nd. We'll be distributing 500 discs to all the contributors to the hospital. But, with Sammy, we've been friends forever, and of course we co-wrote heavy metal together, so inevitably I'll be getting on stage with him on June 2nd and jamming that song with one of my heroes of all time, Sammy Hagar. But, back to World Stage, Jason Shepp came into town. Actually, I came into Nashville and wrote the song with him, and that's where he lives. But a lot of the people actually flew in for this, and that was, you can't write a better song than when you're in one room together. Kelly Kagi, same thing. Of course, there's some people like Lars Sufson of Work of Art. He's in Sweden, so we didn't get together. We wrote by Skype, and he recorded at his studio in Sweden, and we put the pieces together here. And by the way, Where Eagles Dare is one of my favorite tracks on the album. And if you don't get it the first time, Clint, please listen to it a few times. It'll get under your skin.
Oh, I just love that whole concept. I'm a huge fan. That's going to be great. I can't wait. Dennis, to you here, you, my friend, are going to be here in Jefferson City, Missouri, the capital of Missouri, on June 1st. You are out here with the Music of Sticks. You're on tour. You have a show like this Friday. You're crushing it, man. Dennis, what's talk about this tour?
Rephrase the question. I mean, do it again, because Dennis was in the other room. One more time, Clint.
Dennis, okay, so my friend, we have you coming here to Jefferson City in my neck of the woods here on June 1st, bringing your Music of Sticks tour. Talk about what this tour has meant for you, how it's been going. You have a show coming up here, I think, on Friday in Georgia. What's this tour been like, getting this music out there, keeping it alive, doing what you do? We can't wait to have you in Missouri, but what has this tour been like for you?
Well, the thing is, I really tour all the time, and so it's not really a tour. I play on the weekends mostly.
Sure.
And what I've done is I put together just a crackerjack band that brings back the sounds and the spirit of all those Styx albums and concerts I was involved in. So the idea is to do a Styx Greatest Hits tour. Now, when I'm coming down by you, I think you said it's not a Grand Illusion show, is it? It's just like Dennis DeYoung and the Music of Sticks.
Yes.
That's all it's called?
Yep.
Well, then that's a Styx Greatest Hits song. All the songs that the people want to hear, we just line them up and we play them. That's all there is to it. We're also doing a Grand Illusion tour at the same time, which does the whole Grand Illusion start to finish, and then the second act is all the hits. But, it's, I look at Jim and I can speak for Jim right now, because we know one thing. We lived at the greatest time in the history of mankind to be musicians. Never before, and I don't think ever after, will so many of us have the opportunities that guys like Jim and I had, and everybody else. Music was the focal point of all the kids' lives. They had no distractions. So guys in rock bands, they were deified in many ways, and we were there. So I like to tell people, and Jim and I agree, we were lucky by birth. And that's why this music is still viable, and people still want to hear it in concert. And I'll come down by you in Missouri, and people will come up to me and thank me for coming there, as if I'm there with Mother Teresa. You know what I mean? On a mission of mercy. I'm doing my job. So how lucky can you get, right, Jim?
Amen to that. And I like Mother Teresa, so please.
Mother Teresa.
Is that what it is? No. Anyway.
Jim, I have to ask you about a couple things, because, you were a part of Survivor, of course. You co-wrote the song Eye of the Tiger, one of the greatest pump-up rock songs of all time. But you also were a part of Survivor, and you did Burning Heart, and I just recently saw a live video of you performing Burning Heart live, and that was the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, man. I still do that song with the Ides of March. We got the brass going, and, I always say, Clint, that if you have a good song, you can rearrange it and recast it so many different ways. And, that's one thing with the Ides show, for people that come out to see us, like on June 2nd, is we take all the songs that I wrote or co-wrote for Ides of March, but also for Survivor, for Sammy Hagar, for 38 Special, and we add our own flavor to it. And the Ides of March have always been known for the brass sound, exemplified by Vehicle, which was our number one hit in 1970. So when you hear Eye of the Tiger by the Ides of March, we've got the sledgehammer beat and all that, but we also have the brass going bap, 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 bap. It's just very, very powerful. And that's the same thing we do with heavy metal. We slow it down a little bit and really bump and grind it,
Do you find that people are, maybe sometimes unaware that you have written so many of these songs? Because it's something that, to me, these songs are legendary, and to have those credits and to be able to perform them if you want to, or, all that you can do. Do you find that people aren't aware that you were, had songwriting credits on some of these huge songs?
I think that, we're educating people every day to that, and so many people come up to us after an Ides show or a world stage show and like, oh my God, I didn't know you wrote Hold On Loosely. That's my favorite song. So we're gradually getting the word out that I was a thread that ran through so many of these hit songs. It doesn't bother me, that I'm not more famous as the name Jim Peterik, but the people that really know appreciate what I do.
I definitely am one of those people, Jim. I'm such a fan of your work with Survivor. I mean, I think, it's funny for me just in the timeline of my life that Eye of the Tiger, maybe like the first rock song I ever heard, as I was very young when Rocky III came out. In fact, I was not quite born yet, but as I became indoctrinated to it, it's like that song sticks with you, and that's your work. That's amazing. Like, I feel like I'm talking to someone that just almost raised me from birth, Jim. But you're not old enough to have really done that, but
No, I think you kicked the slabs off the cradle to that one. But I'll tell you, Eye of the Tiger, we knew that it was going to be a big hit in '82 when Sylvester Stallone called me up, and he left an answering machine message, "Hey, yo, Jim, give me a call, it's Sylvester Stallone." And I'm going, "Yeah, right, they put me on, right?" And finally I called him back, and he said, I said, "Is this really Sylvester Stallone?" He goes, "Hey, Jim, call me Sly. Here I am talking to my hero. You calling him Sly, And that was I call it the phone call that changed my life. But I never imagined that in the year 2019, that song would still be performed and still be motivating people to go beyond their limits and test their humanity. I've heard so many stories of people come up to me all the time and write me letters that they fought cancer and won to that song, or crossed the finish line first in a marathon, or on and on and on. And that's the biggest thrill a songwriter could ever have.
And the fact that it may not have ever happened had they just gotten the rights to Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. That's what Stallone was looking for, and he couldn't get the permission. So Eye of the Tiger it is, and it could not have been more iconic. It's just funny how things like that work in the music business. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, it sure is. I thank him all the time for giving us a shot at the title, because we're basically an unknown band. The first two albums by Survivor didn't really tear the world on fire, And finally, he goes, Tony Scotti, the label manager, actually the owner of the Scotti Brothers, he knew Stallone, had him over to the office, and he says, "I want you to hear a new band I signed." And he played him Poor Man's Son and a couple others for Premonition. And Stallone goes, "Okay, that's the sound I want." So it all works together.
Okay, so before we let you go, I know you're as big of a Beach Boys fan as I am. I actually just saw him last summer. I'm such a fan. But you actually, you're a lifelong fan of the Beach Boys, and you got to record a song with them. That's Why God Made the Radio. What was that like for you personally to be able to record this song with some of your heroes?
Well, I consider that one of the great moments of my later life. Obviously, the 80s, the 70s was, Hide the March. The 80s was Survivor. But I'll tell you, in 2012, it was all about the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson. And, I wrote that song with Brian, but also with Larry Millis of the Ides March and Joe Thomas, the Beach Boys' great producer. And we were sitting in a Chinese restaurant, and we were talking about it. And Brian was there, and Larry was there, and Joe was there, and I'm talking about AM radio, and how much we love the sound of AM radio through the dashboard of our cars way back in the 60s. And Brian says, "Oh, that's why God made the radio." And I wrote that down, man, and we just got to work on it. And it took us 4 years to write that song, because we wanted to get it right, and people's schedules and everything. Finally, the Beach Boys came together for a reunion. The timing couldn't be better. That song went to number one on the Billboard charts. And I remember, when they came to Chicago at the Chicago Theater, they invited Larry and I and my son and my wife backstage, and it was the moment of my life. And then they performed the song flawlessly, and my son's sitting next to me, and I talk about it in my book. And he says, "Dad, this has to be a big moment for you." And I said, "You know what? It doesn't get much better than this." So I'm still pinching myself, and I'm still writing with Brian and Joe and Larry, and we're working on a new Brian album and a documentary. So it keeps going.
Wow, Jim, I mean, I can't, what a career, what a life it's been. I thank you so much. And to tell Dennis, we can't thank him enough as well. That one blew me away to have you guys together, because this album, Winds of Change, is amazing. You can get it right now via Frontiers Records. Proof of Heaven is the song and the video that you guys did. I'm such a fan. Jim, I can't thank you enough. Tell Dennis we say thanks so much for taking some time, and we just, all the best, my friend. We'll catch you soon.
Okay, Clint, thanks for the interview, and I'll tell Dennis the same. He's in the other room mixing a song. So God bless, and thanks again. Keep rocking to all your fans.
You bet. Thanks so much.
All right. See you, man.
Well, there you have it. What a surprise it was. Dennis DeYoung joining the Jim Peterik interview. Of course, the new album is Winds of Change. It's been out since April, so it's been out about a month now. So please check that out, jimpeterik.com. I'll get you all the information on his upcoming appearances and how to get the album. It's via Frontiers Music. And wow, what a surprise that was, talking to him about so many legendary songs, and those songs from the Rocky movies. From Rocky 3, of course, you had Eye of the Tiger. Hearts on Fire from Rocky 4. I tell you, it's just an amazing experience to have had both of those guests on. And Dennis DeYoung, one of my favorite singers of all time, Styx, one of my favorite bands. That all just clicked. It all just happened. It was not planned. Just by happenstance. Amazing things can happen in this world, guys. We are so pleased to be with you and to have you listening to us. And again, just urge you to head to our website, musicmaniapodcast.com. You can get all my concert reviews, all of our shows, over like 125 episodes now. They're all archived there. Start with one and work your way up. You got time. Make it happen. So much coming up. We talked about the interviews we have coming up with Cher Ross from Vixen, Johnny Rabb from Collective Soul, and Don Felder, former guitarist for the Eagles. I'm saying all this with just a giant grin on my face because I am still blown away by being able to do these interviews, because that's what it's all about for us. Doing these interviews for you, hearing their stories, bringing them on to this show, giving them the medium, the way to get out, what they're doing and talk about their careers, everything like that. It's very important to me, and that's why I do this podcast, not for my own gratification, not to hear myself talk, although some of you would argue that. But hey, there's lots of that coming up. We're going to be doing so many shows. We're going to be live at Rocklahoma coming up this weekend. We got Great White coming in. We got Slaughter coming in. Guys, it is summer 2019. We are on the road to rock, and your money stays and plays with us right here on the Music Mania Podcast.